Well, for 2 weeks in a row now, Larry McCarron has tried to suck up to Matt LaFleur in the post-game interview. And for 2 weeks in a row, LaFleur has ignored it and shut it down. He told him last night, LaFleur says, I can't wait to go and count our missed tackles. Oh, God, I love this guy. He's interested in winning and not in being sucked up to. Somebody better tell that to Larry McCarron. Somebody tell that to Mark Tauscher before he offends somebody. Oh boy, welcome to the program, the Aaron Michaels Show. AaronMichaelsShow@gmail.com if you want to email us. At Wisconsin Aaron on Twitter. And folks, there are just some days where I cannot wait to wake up and do this program and just get into it. And today is one of those days. Just the way that LaFleur isn't interested in being sucked up to. It's such a refreshing thing. I just can't wait to come on here and point that out and talk about it. It is truly great, and it's such a breath of fresh air. And I'll tell you this. I don't know what the Packers' record is going to be this year. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs or not. I don't even know whether or not LaFleur will be a highly successful football coach, as McCarthy claimed he was. But I do know this. I know that LaFleur is going to see problems and attempt to fix them, instead of just stand pat and not do anything. And that's what's happened in Green Bay for years, along with a willing accomplice of a media that has let them get away with that and actually praise them for such things. But no more with this coach. He just wants to win, and it's a great attitude to have, and it gives me hope. It really does. For the first time in like 10 years, I have some hope. So we didn't see Rodgers. Didn't see Aaron Jones. I'll get back to the Rodgers thing in a minute. Or in the next segment. But, hold on. We didn't see Rodgers. Didn't see Aaron Jones. Didn't see Jamal Williams. But we did see more of the top two backup quarterbacks. Deshaun Kaiser, Tim Boyle. And neither one of them came out of this game smelling real good. Now, for some reason, it's something that I'm still attempting to identify, but for some reason, the Wisconsin sports media's darling and pick for the backup quarterback spot is Deshaun Kaiser. I just watch this guy, and he doesn't give me much confidence. Yet at the same time, and I've liked Boyle more, but Boyle doesn't instill a whole lot of confidence into me either. But at least when I watch the two of them, I think that Boyle, if nothing else, shows more promise. I don't see much of anything with Kaiser. And with him, you're talking about a guy who's been in the league now for a couple of years. 1 year as a starter in Cleveland. And this is all he's got. He hasn't shown any kind of drastic jump or improvement. But look, no matter how you slice it, if Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, the Packers are in big trouble. Now, if Rodgers is out for a small portion of time, we're talking 2, maybe 3 games, Boyle or Kaiser would have to come in and just keep their head above water. But a large part of their success in a situation like that, where if Rodgers was just missing 2 or 3 games, a large part of that success would come down to the defense and can they handle the load. The defense did have a whole bunch of missed tackles last night, prompting, as I said before, LaFleur to say, I can't wait to count them. The one thing that I do like about the defense so far is the fact that even when the offense completes passes against them, for the most part, the defense seems to be right there and covering. That's nice to see after how many years of capers where receivers always had like a 10-yard cushion to catch a pass with nobody around them. At least for the most part, this defense is covering tight, and generally they're in position to make plays. Now, the problem is the tackling. It was another issue last night. It's something that needs to be addressed before week 1 against the Bears. I'm not overly worried about it right now, but it's got to get fixed. And we can't be going into week 1, Thursday night, against Chicago saying, I hope they fixed their tackling problem. I mean, LaFleur obviously wasn't happy about it last night. First he tells Larry McCarron, I can't wait to go count them. And then you could just tell in his press conference after the game that he was agitated about all the missed tackles that they had. He just simply said it. He said it's not good enough. He's upset about them. He doesn't like them. I'm not sure exactly where this notion came from that you can't overreact in a preseason game. Everyone seems hell-bent on pointing that out. You can't overreact. It's just preseason. You can't overreact. In fact, you really shouldn't react to anything at all. Well, call it overreact. Call it whatever the hell you want. But the tackling for the Packers has been extremely poor through 2 games. And you can call that whatever you want. I don't call it anything but the reality of the current situation that we're in right now. Through 2 preseason games, the Packers' defense has tackled horribly. And listen, folks, if we are not to overreact to the preseason, and we are not allowed to point out anything bad because it's just an overreaction, then fine. Jake Kumaro shouldn't make the roster because the good play that he's had in the preseason games doesn't count. Nothing in the preseason counts, and you can't overreact by saying that he's a lock to make the roster. You can't say that Tony Brown is playing well either. After all, this is just the preseason, and making any sort of definitive statement one way or the other, good or bad, is just simply an overreaction to the preseason. Hell, I don't even know why we bother watching these games. Because we're not allowed to react to them. Hey, Packer fans, listen to me for a second here. Packer fans, have at it. It's a damn football game with your favorite team. If you want to get pissed off at the tackling, get pissed off at the tackling. If you want to think that Kumaro is the best unexpected story since Donald Driver, have at it. Knock yourself out with either one. Do what you want to do. You, ladies and gentlemen, you are, despite what you might hear in the media and from people who will mock you and put you down, or despite what you may hear from fans who are trying to be intellectual by not overreacting, not jumping off the ledge, despite what you hear from all these buffoons, you do have the right to have an opinion. And the Aaron Michaels Show is a place where you can express it. That is what we exist for, to give you a voice. That's right. So yesterday, I had posted on Twitter about how the Packers don't have a backup quarterback after all these years of Mike McCarthy, the quarterback guru, being there. And if he were such a guru, why did he never develop a competent backup that we could now have in the system? And we talked about that yesterday, but the tweet and the conversation spurred into a conversation further about Mike McCarthy, and we don't have to get into all that. But I did want to read you a tweet that I received, and folks, this tweet is spot on. This is right on target. And this is the tweet. This is it. It says, Murphy/board of directors are the ones responsible for the lost years of Aaron Rodgers. Mike McCarthy, defensive coordinator, and Ted Thompson should have been terminated years before they actually left. What a breath of fresh air Goody and Matt have been. It's also crazy how much work they have in front of them. And F Liver 15, that's what I'm going to call him. I don't sent that. I'm not sure exactly how you say that Twitter handle. F Liver or Fliver 15. I'm not sure. But at any rate, not the point. The point is that what he tweeted here is spot on. This is very accurate. And, you know, Gutekunst has done a lot of work since taking over. I mean, look at the things that he's done. He's quickly ridden the team of the Thompson people. I mean, you get rid of McCarthy, get rid of Capers, which are probably the two biggest ones. But they also trade Clinton Dix, release Mike Daniels, Ty Montgomery. These are letting Nick Perry go, letting Clay Matthews go. These are just guys who were establishment people in the Packers system before Gutekunst took over. Even Randall Cobb. Let him go. Jordy Nelson would have been in that mix, right? It was Gutekunst that didn't sign him. I mean, you're taking the core establishment guys that were under Ted and under Mike, and you're saying, goodbye. We're starting over. Oh, yeah, first round pick, too, Demarius Randall, trading him away. What's happening here is more than just Gutekunst making his team his own or putting his own mark on it. He is dismantling the thing. He's dismantling it, which is fine with me. Because this core of players that you've had under Ted and Mike, obviously, they were not getting the job done. But this was a great point by our Twitter follower here. The wasted years of Rodgers happened as a direct result of McCarthy being an incompetent buffoon and Ted's bad drafts and refusing to use free agency, along with stupid things like re-signing Nick Perry to a huge contract. All that factors into it. But Ted and Mike were allowed to run this crap into the ground, all under the unwatchful eye of Mark Murphy. He's out there taking pictures on his stupid sledding hill while the team is in the midst of missing the playoffs for 2 years in a row. And his only response was to come out and say that Ted can be the GM here as long as he wants. And I think we saw, though, that Murphy's ass was probably on the line. Otherwise, he would not have had Ted leave. He would not have gotten rid of McCarthy. Those moves were made as a last-ditch effort for McCarthy to save his job. At least that's what I think. He made the moves to save his job. Now his future with the Packers is going to be directly tethered to how Gutekunst and LaFleur do. Because if those two guys fail, that means that Murphy failed in getting the right people in place, and ultimately I think that Murphy will be gone. But really, it took until the very end for him to make these moves reluctantly. There were always rumblings throughout McCarthy and Thompson's tenure of unhappy fans. I mean, it's been years and years for some of us who saw right from the get-go that these two guys are no good and they need to go. But Murphy let it slide all the way, all the way until the end, until the outcry to get rid of Ted first, and then Mike, until the outcry was coming from almost every person that you heard call up a talk show, almost everyone you saw comment on social media or on articles that were posted, whatever the case may be, almost everyone was in unison saying Ted needs to go. And then a year later it was Mike needs to go. And then that's finally when they got rid of him, or them, when it was no longer profitable to have them. But, McCarthy and Ted were not ever the reason that the Packers had the success that they did in winning the divisions, going to the playoffs. You can thank Aaron Rodgers for all that. The new Titletown district, that should be called the Aaron Rodgers district because he built all that off the money that team made going to the playoffs, winning divisions, and everything else. That was all done off the right arm of Aaron Rodgers. And I don't think Rodgers has been that as good as he used to be the last few years. And I certainly don't think that he's played the last 2 years if he continues. If he continues to play this way, he's not worth the money that the Packers are paying him with this huge contract. But 100% for sure, I will say this. He deserves every single penny of those paychecks that he's getting right now as back payment for what he's done and accomplished in his career for the Packers. He has definitely earned that money. We'll take a break. We'll talk more about what happened in last night's preseason game, a loss to the Ravens. We'll take a break. Be back faster than a Josh Hader fastball. Hi, welcome back to the program. This is the Aaron Michael Show, alternative Wisconsin sports media. One thing that we'll never do here is talk down to frustrated fans. We are a oasis in a way in the desert of the biased and superior thinking media. People who think that they are the intellectuals of the media world, who shall never overreact, shall never jump off the ledge, will never fire anyone, or who shall never be reactionary. And, those media people laugh at you when you get upset. They mock you when you get upset. They put you down for wanting somebody fired because they are not reactionary. They're superior. They are the intelligent ones. So, you do have a place here on the Aaron Michaels Show. Okay, so yesterday I had a theory. And even though I generally am not worried about what people think of me, I don't really like to post conspiracy theories on the internet because for the most part I don't believe in them anyway. There's just a lot of thoughts most of the time with not much proof. But I decided to post on Twitter yesterday, and to my surprise, I didn't get laughed at by too many people, I don't think. So Aaron Rodgers was held out of the game yesterday due to a tight back. He's never had back problems before that I know of, and it tightened up on him a little bit, what they say, during warm-ups. And it was planned that Rodgers would play, the first quarter with the starters, but all of a sudden, a back injury happened. But what are the chances that this was planned all along to not have Rodgers play? Just to see what Kaiser would do, being unexpectedly thrust into a game with the starters on offense against a defense that does not play vanilla in the preseason. Just to test them. I think that's probable. And everyone really went out of their way to say, look, don't worry about Aaron Rodgers. I mean, everyone who you've heard talk about it, including LaFleur, I mean, they're way over the top, and don't worry about Rodgers. He's just fine. Oh, just precautionary, no big deal. Well, I'm not worried about Rodgers at all. I don't even know that he was hurt, which is fine, but conspiracy theory or not, doesn't matter. It's what ended up happening. Kaiser gets thrown into the action, like in a real game, or as close of a simulation as you're going to get to a real game in the preseason. He got to play unexpectedly with a first-team offense against a good first-team defense that doesn't play vanilla in the preseason. And the results are in. I don't think he's very good. Kaiser. I think the Packers are in some big-time trouble right now if Aaron Rodgers goes down for, say, 3 weeks. And here's the problem. The Packers don't really have 3 weeks to screw around this year. Look at the NFC North. There isn't going to be much room for error. The Bears are good. They've got a good chance to win the division. The Vikings are good. Don't sleep on them. There's just not going to be a lot of room for error when you're competing with not one, but 2 teams for the top spot in the division. So if Rodgers goes down for 2 or 3 games, you can't afford to lose all 3 or both of them. You've got to be able to sustain and win a game, if not probably 2 out of 3 if Rodgers is out. I mean, this is all a moot point if Rodgers goes out for a very extended period of time, because there's no way that any of these quarterbacks, no matter what the Packer defense looks like, there's no way that either one of these 2 guys could sustain the success needed if Rodgers were to go down to keep hope alive in that division, or even for a wild card spot for that matter. Let's see here. What else we got? Dexter Williams, Packers 6th round pick, had a drop pass. Also a fumble yesterday, so that wasn't real pretty. It's going to be hard to see exactly what this new offense is all about until Aaron Jones is on the field, because running back is such a big part of it, a part of this offense. And Jones is obviously the most talented of all the backs. But until you have him in there and he's healthy, it's going to be hard to judge the offense effectively or accurately. Yet, in the same breath, you have to see what you have behind Jones, because he's had injury problems throughout his early career, and obviously he's missed a lot of practice this preseason, and he's missed both preseason games. So the reality of life is that you're going to have games this year where Jones is not available, and they're going to have an effective plan in place for when that happens, and it will happen. We've already seen his injury history. We've already seen him miss time this year. This is not even a slight on Jones. I mean, running back position is a position where you absorb a lot of injuries anyway, and he seems to be extra prone to them. I mean, it is what it is, and if it continues to be a problem, I guess they have to look at his future at some point. I'm not saying that now, but the fact of the matter is, again, you're going to have a backup plan in place. And we haven't seen Jamal Williams, and he's obviously the second best back that they have, but not a good showing for Dexter Williams last night. J.K. Scott had a good game punting, just under 53 yards per punt, and they all had good hang time. He also had a long punt of 64 yards, so good day for him. Speaking of special teams, Mason Crosby made a 43-yard field goal plus an extra point. Neither Crosby or Ficken have missed a kick yet in a game, so we can still keep an eye on that battle. Also, the battle for the open spot of inside linebacker with Oren Burks out significant time with injury. That position battle has started. A couple of guys in that competition. One did well, the other did not. First, the good, Curtis Bolton. It seemed like he was all over the place yesterday. In case you're forgetting, he is number 40. Saw number 40 around a lot of places yesterday. He made a few plays on special teams. It seemed like he was all over the place last night. Had some tackles. Also had an interception that Tony Brown tipped up for him, but we're not allowed to talk about that. It's an overreaction to the playoffs. I mean, to the preseason, to suggest that somebody is doing well. I mean, if you can't suggest because it's the preseason and we can't overreact to the preseason, we shouldn't point out poor play. Well, if that's the case, then I guess we shouldn't point out good play either, right? Because both are an overreaction to a silly, meaningless preseason game. At any rate, Tony Brown tipped the ball, and he has played well. And we had an interception there from Curtis Bolton, so he had a good game. The not so good Ty Summers had 5 missed tackles last night. He's got, I think, 9 now in 2 games. That's not too good. And he had a lot of tackles in week 1, but he also had the missed ones too. Oh yeah. One thing I did want to mention. This is where I'm really going to start making friends. Something that I'm sick of seeing. I mentioned this yesterday in a short segment. I'm sick of seeing suggestions for the Packers or other teams to sign Colin Kaepernick. Okay? Number 1, he isn't that good. Number 2, I don't care what his politics are. You don't even know what I need to think about him one way or the other. But number 3, and most importantly, let me tell you this again. I don't know why this is so hard to understand. But no serious contending team for a Super Bowl, or who wants to be a serious or contending team for a Super Bowl, is going to sign Kaepernick. No one is going to bring in the circus that he brings with him. No one is going to do that. Maybe some loser team like the Bengals might do it for some publicity, but no other team in their right mind is going to bring in the media circus that would follow him. Why is that so hard to understand? Hey, hell, whatever, Kaepernick. Hey, man, you got the right to take a knee during the national anthem. Kaepernick has a right to hate the cops. He's got a right to do that. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, every team in the NFL also has the right as individual teams to not want to bring him in. And if you cause trouble or if you bring a media circus with you, you don't have to sign a guy if you don't want. And no team who cares about winning or the Super Bowl or is trying to get to that point is going to bring in that circus and have that distraction. It does nothing but distract from the point of what an NFL season is, that is to win the Super Bowl. So if he's not helping you do that, and he's not because of the circus that comes with him, you're not helping your team by getting him. This isn't rocket science here, people. And the circus that follows Kaepernick around, he brought on himself. Hey, jeez. We're good. We're good. So on to another story that I found that I love before we wrap things up today. One other note. Saw this earlier today put out by ESPN. The Little League World Series is happening right now, and ESPN just got so excited because some pitcher gave up a rocket home run, and as the batter who hit it was rounding the bases, the pitcher, the kid who gave up the homer, runs over to high-five him for his great hit. And ESPN says, even after a home run, these players are all about sportsmanship. Who the hell is teaching? Well, I know the answer to this, but who the hell is teaching these kids to, when they fail, when they give up a home run, to go over and immediately tell the other team how great of a job they did? To go pat them on the back and say, wow, nice job, man, that was great, congratulations. What is this crap? Seriously, there's something wrong. Not with this 10-year-old kid. He doesn't know any better. But there's something horribly wrong with the parents and the coaches who taught this kid zero competition. To think that the correct response is to go give the home run hitter a high five because he had such a great hit. Where's the competitiveness? I mean, I'm not saying that you have to throw a beanball into the guy's eye socket the next time he comes up to the plate. But hey, maybe showing a little remorse that you just gave up a home run to the guy, maybe that would be a good place to start. But you know, these days, it just doesn't matter anymore because it's not about winning. It's about having fun. And when we have fun, everyone's a winner. Somebody's going to have to grab me some soap to wash my mouth out after talking that way. This is the world that we live in. Whatever, folks. Good thing that the weekend is here. We will resume Monday. Thanks for listening to the Aaron Michael Show. By the way, fan mail can be sent to aaronmichaelshow@gmail.com. Have a good weekend, everybody.